Garage doors and openers have many moving and dangerous parts. Be aware of the potential for pinched fingers and rough edges. Safety glasses, work boots, and gloves should be worn, and no loose-fitting clothing should be present. The repairman in this video has removed his gloves so that we can clearly show the proper procedures to follow for this repair. To prevent accidental activation, unplug and remove your garage door opener from the door. The following directions must be followed in order. If taken out of sequence, serious injury or even death can occur. We suggest that you watch the video in its entirety and also refer to our written directions before starting this repair. If you are in doubt or uncomfortable in performing these repairs, consult a garage door professional. These directions are based on this type of torsion spring setup. Front mounted with a center bearing plate with a spring or springs attached in the center. It has cable drums inside the end bearing plates with cables coming up and over the back side of the cable drums. Any variance in the type of setup will render these directions null and void. If your garage door has a different type of spring setup than the one shown, do not use these directions for spring replacement. Serious injury and even death can result. We recommend that you call a door professional if your spring assembly varies from the one shown here. Bottom brackets and cables should always be replaced in pairs to ensure continuity in overall cable length. As you will see in the following video, due to the amount of disassembly required to replace your broken bottom bracket or cable, now is the time to consider replacing the spring or springs. Replacing these additional components now will save you time in the future. The following tools are required for this repair: metal rod or winding bars, 2 pair of locking pliers, a ladder, a file, various sockets, and wrenches sized 3/8, 7/16, 1/2, and 9/16. First, unplug your garage door opener from the electrical outlet. Next, remove the arm from your garage door opener. Next, lock your door closed and place vice grips or clamps on the track above the middle roller. This will ensure the door does not open while you are working. First, position the ladder in a manner that will allow you to keep your face away from the winding cone and winding bars as you unwind the spring. Insert one winding bar into the winding cone. We have wrapped tape on these winding bars to indicate the depth that the winding bar must be inserted into the winding cone. While firmly holding onto the winding bar, loosen the set screws in the winding cone. Ensure that the set screws are not in contact with the door shaft. Insert the second winding bar fully into the winding cone. Lift up on the second winding bar and remove the first bar. Then insert the winding bar into the next hole on the cone and repeat this process until all tension is removed from the spring. You will want to count the total amount of quarter turns you remove from the spring as you are unwinding it. This is the same amount of tension that you will be reapplying later. Take your time and concentrate on what you are doing. Eliminate all distractions from your work area before unwinding or winding torsion springs. First, remove the cable from the cable drum. You may let the cable drop to the floor. Now, loosen the set screws on the cable drum. Then slide the cable drum away from the end bearing plate. Now move to the other side of the door and repeat this process for the second drum. Be aware that you may need to file the shaft in order to get the cable drum to slide. Moving to the center of the door, remove the bolts that hold the springs to the center bearing plate. After the springs are unbolted, separate them from each other on the shaft. Loosen the set screws on the broken spring. Then slide the shaft out of the end bearing. Remove the cable drum from the shaft, then slide the broken spring off of the shaft. Last, slide the shaft back into the end bearing to support the shaft. Slide the shaft back out of the end bearing. Thread the new spring onto the shaft and reinstall the cable drum on the shaft. Slide the shaft through the end bearing, then slide the spring towards the center bearing. Moving to the center of the door, reinstall the bolts through the stationary cone that hold the springs together at the center bearing plate. Make sure to double check the tightness of these bolts, as they are very important to holding the springs on the door. First, ensure the cable is clear of any obstructions and is running directly from the bottom bracket to the cable drum. Insert the cable into the slot in the cable drum. Make sure the cable is properly seated into the cable drum as noted by the correct graphic on the screen. Then, make sure the cable is properly tracking in the grooves in the cable drum. Slide the drum firmly against the end bearing plate and tighten the set screws on the cable drum. Do not over-tighten the set screws. Holding the drum in a manner that will keep the cable tight on the cable drum, place locking pliers on the shaft, letting them rest against the wall. This will hold the cable tight on the cable drum. Now move to the other side of the door and repeat this process for the second drum. Insert the winding bar into the winding cone, making sure the winding bar is inserted all the way into the cone. Lift the first winding bar and insert the second winding bar into the next hole in the winding cone. This is 1/4 turn. We will be winding the springs to the same amount of quarter turns that were removed from the spring originally, or that you have calculated using our calculator. Continue to wind the spring until the proper amount of turns have been applied. Once the number of turns has been reached, let the bottom winding bar rest against the door. Tighten the set screws against the shaft. Insert the second winding bar into the winding cone and lift slightly, removing the bottom winding bar and testing the strength of the set screws. Tighten the set screws if needed. Repeat this process on the other side of the door with the second torsion spring. Remember to position your ladder in a manner that you are not in direct line with the winding, and so you are comfortable. Remove the first clamp from the track. Then unlock the door, and while placing your foot on the step plate of the door, remove the second clamp from the track. Now, maintaining a firm grip on the door, remove your foot from the step plate and raise the garage door. Consider the balance of the door as you raise it. Does the door open easily and fully, or is the door heavy to lift? If adjustments are required, reclamp and lock the door. Using the same ladder placement, insert the winding bar into the winding cone. Slightly lift the bar and insert the second winding bar into the winding cone. Letting the second winding bar rest against the door, loosen the set screws. In this case, the door was heavy, and we are adding tension to the springs. Never add more than 1/2 turn of tension at one time. After you have added the tension to the springs, Tighten the set screws. Be sure to insert the winding bar and check the grip of the set screws before removing the other winding bar. Repeat the process of removing the clamps, unlocking the door, and testing the door for proper balance. Verify that the door is not too heavy and not too light for proper balance. Now, reattach the arm to your garage door opener.